The plastic tables wobbled slightly on my driveway, stacked high with board games, old lamps, and mismatched kitchenware that hadn't seen daylight in years. Cardboard signs written in thick black Sharpie pointed toward my garage. Multifamily sale, Saturday only. The smell of brewed coffee and a tray of my sister's brownies wafted through the late morning air. Kids darted between racks of clothes while a few early bargain hunters sifted through boxes labeled $1 each. It was supposed to be simple. A Saturday garage sale. My way of finally clearing the clutter my late wife had begged me to deal with. Her old quilt stand. The vintage radio her father gave us. The things that once held memories but now sat collecting dust. I thought it would feel freeing, like exhaling after years of holding my breath. Instead, it became ammunition for the neighborhood tyrant, Karen. Karen with her oversized sunglasses and clipboard that never left her manicured hands. Karen who patrolled our cul-de-sac like she owned the air rights above it. Her beige stucco house sat 3 doors down, a fortress of HOA-approved perfection. Every bush trimmed with military precision, her driveway scrubbed to a shine. She appeared the way she always did, sudden, sharp, and unwelcome. A shadow fell across the tables, and I looked up to see her blocking the path. Phone already raised like a weapon. "This is an illegal commercial operation," she announced. Loud enough for the bargain hunters to freeze mid-browse. A man holding a stack of mystery novels looked confused. My neighbor's daughter clutched the dollar bill she'd been about to hand me. "The air went brittle, Karen," I said carefully, forcing a smile for the customers. "It's a garage sale." "People do this all the time." Her lips curled, shark-like. "Not here. Section 14C of the Meadowbrook Estates Covenant prohibits unlicensed sales events. No flea markets. No unauthorized signage. This," she swept her phone in a dramatic arc over the tables, "is a violation." I wanted to laugh, but her eyes, cold, certain, made the sound catch in my throat. "This is my property," I managed. "I filed no permits because I don't need permits for a garage sale. I'm cleaning out my home, not opening Walmart." Click, the sound of her phone's camera shutter. Then again, she circled, snapping pictures of everything. The racks of clothes, the cash box, even the tray of brownies. Customers began shuffling toward their cars, murmuring apologies, embarrassed by the tension. The air that had smelled like coffee now reeked of Karen's perfume, artificial vanilla layered too thick, suffocating. "Consider this reported," she hissed, lowering her phone. "The city code enforcement officer will love this." Then she was gone, heels clacking against the pavement, leaving only silence and the slow drip of humiliation in her wake. By noon, the tables were half empty, not from sales but from neighbors too nervous to stop by. The cash box held barely $20. Every car that slowed near my driveway made me brace for flashing lights and sirens. I couldn't help replaying the sight of her phone rising like a sword, her lips curving into that predator's smile. I thought she'd stop at scaring off customers. I was wrong. The certified letter came Monday morning, slid neatly under my door like a final insult. "Notice of violation, unauthorized commercial activity. Penalty, $500. The city seal mocked me from the header." Karen had filed her report, and it had landed exactly where she wanted. I gripped the paper until it crumpled, heat crawling up my neck. A weekend of folding tables and dollar bins had turned into a legal nightmare, all because one neighbor couldn't stand the sight of ordinary life on my driveway. What Karen didn't realize was that I wasn't alone in this fight. My younger brother, Michael, knew the ins and outs of city ordinances better than anyone else, because Michael wasn't just my brother, he was the mayor, and Karen had just picked the wrong family to provoke. The letter sat on my kitchen table like a venomous snake, coiled and ready to strike. The city's seal gleamed at the top, the words "Notice of Violation" staring back in bold black print. Karen's fingerprints were all over it, not literally but in spirit, her language. Her obsession with rules, her smug certainty that she could bend the city to her will. I poured coffee into my chipped mug, the one with a fading picture of Lake Hartwell from a trip years ago. My hands shook as I held it, not from fear but from anger that crawled up through my chest. A $500 fine for selling my wife's old dishes and board games? This wasn't about community standards. This was Karen, flexing her power like she always did. I knew her pattern. When Mr. and Mrs. Garcia painted their shutters a shade too dark, Karen sent 3 violation notices in 1 week. When a teenager down the street left his skateboard by the porch overnight, Karen photographed it and posted to the HOA Facebook group with the caption, "Decline starts small." And now it was me. I carried the violation notice into my office, dropped it next to a stack of photo albums, and picked up my phone. Scrolled past the usual spam and robocalls until I found the one name that mattered. Michael. He answered on the second ring. "Hey, big brother," he said, voice warm but edged with fatigue. The kind of fatigue you only get when you run a city. "Mike," I started, trying to keep my tone level. "You're not going to believe this. Karen reported my garage sale." Silence on the line. Then a sharp laugh. "A garage sale? You're kidding. I've got the notice in my hand. $500. That shifted his tone. No laugh now. Just the calm, careful cadence I'd heard him use in press conferences. "All right, start at the beginning. What happened?" So I told him. The folding tables. The brownies. The way Karen swooped in like a hawk circling prey. The click of her phone camera. The customers fleeing. The certified letter. I didn't leave out a detail because with Karen, details mattered. Michael sighed. "This woman has been harassing you for years, hasn't she?" "She thrives on it," I muttered. But this time she went too far. "You're right," he said. "And she picked the wrong fight. I'll pull the complaint file tomorrow morning. If it came through city channels, I'll know exactly how it got processed. And if she twisted anything, if she filed it under false pretenses, that's a different story altogether." I leaned back in my chair, the crumpled violation notice still burning on the desk. For the first time that weekend, my chest loosened, because Karen didn't know who she was actually up against. She thought she'd sick the city on me like a dog chasing off trespassers. What she didn't realize was that my brother was the city. By Tuesday afternoon, Michael called again. His voice carried that restrained fire I knew well, the kind he used when the city council tried something shady behind closed doors. "I pulled the file," he said. "Karen didn't just report a garage sale. She filed it as a commercial resale event. She wrote that you were operating an unlicensed business out of your driveway." I froze. "She lied. Not just lied," Michael continued. "She attached photos, marked up with arrows and captions, making it look like you had employees and signage. She even claimed customers were blocking emergency vehicle access. None of that is true, right?" I nearly dropped the phone. The way she staged her pictures. The way she snapped them with surgical precision while circling my tables. She hadn't just been documenting. She'd been building a case. "This is her playbook," I said bitterly. "Create the illusion of chaos, then weaponize the rules." Michael's tone hardened. "That's filing a false report. And depending on how it's classified, it could carry legal consequences. Do you want me to handle this quietly or make it very, very public?" I stared out the kitchen window at the quiet cul-de-sac. The trimmed lawns, the mailboxes all painted the same dull beige. The silence that always followed when Karen struck. Part of me wanted to just let Michael squash the violation behind the scenes. To erase it like it never happened. But another part of me, the part that had watched neighbors fold under Karen's intimidation for years, wanted this fight dragged into the light. "I don't want quiet," I said finally. "I want her exposed." Michael didn't hesitate. "Then buckle up. Because if Karen wants to play City Hall games, she just signed up for a war she can't win." The coffee in my mug had gone cold, but the fire in my chest burned hotter than ever. Karen thought she'd buried me under paperwork. What she'd actually done was open the door to her own undoing, and this time, the mayor was walking through it with me. The next weekend, the street looked normal on the surface. Kids rode scooters, sprinklers ticked across emerald green lawns, and the faint hum of lawnmowers filled the air. But underneath, tension hung heavy, like a storm cloud nobody wanted to acknowledge. Neighbors knew what had happened. Karen didn't keep her battles private. She broadcast them like trophies. The HOA Facebook page now featured a post with a photo of my garage sale table. Her caption, "Unauthorized commercial operations hurt all of us. Property values are fragile. Thank you to everyone supporting community standards." 34 likes. 12 comments. Most from people too scared of her to disagree publicly. but a few messages slid into my inbox in quiet solidarity. Sorry you're dealing with this. She's out of control. If you need a witness, I saw everything. Fear makes people whisper when they should shout. That Saturday afternoon, Michael showed up. Not as Mayor Reed, just my younger brother, wearing jeans, a polo shirt, and that same look he used to have when we were kids about to confront the school bully. Determined, steady, no nonsense. He stood in my driveway, scanning the cul-de-sac like it was another city council chamber. She's built her little empire here, he said quietly. Fear and paperwork, that's her currency. Feels like she always wins, I muttered. Not this time, he said flatly. As if summoned by his words, Karen appeared. Perfectly timed, as though she had surveillance on every driveway. She wore her signature wide-brim hat, clipboard clutched in her hand, lips pressed into that tight smile that never reached her eyes. Well, she said, her voice carrying just enough for nearby porches to hear. If it isn't the mayor himself, gracing Meadowbrook Estates with his presence. Come to see your brother's illegal business firsthand. Michael didn't flinch. He stepped forward, calm but commanding. I came to see the violation report you filed, Karen, and to let you know it didn't hold up. For the first time, her smile cracked. Excuse me? You filed a false claim with city enforcement, he continued evenly. You altered photographs. You exaggerated circumstances. That's fraud. Karen's face flushed pink beneath her hat. Fraud? I was protecting the neighborhood. By lying? Michael's voice cut sharp like a gavel strike. The city doesn't take kindly to citizens abusing official channels for personal vendettas. You think rules only apply to other people? That ends today. Her clipboard trembled slightly in her grip. But she recovered, lifting her chin like a queen unbothered. I have the support of this community. They know I'm right. Michael turned, gesturing to the neighbors gathering on porches and sidewalks, drawn to the spectacle. Then let's ask them. Did anyone here see commercial trucks? Employees? Streets blocked by emergency hazards? Anyone? Silence. Just the soft hum of cicadas and the rustle of leaves. Eyes flicked from Karen to Michael to me, but no one spoke. Fear kept their mouths shut until Mrs. Garcia stepped forward. Elderly, petite, her hands still stained with garden soil. I saw everything, she said firmly. It was a simple garage sale. Karen scared people away. That's the only violation here, the dam cracked. More voices followed. She's always doing this. She fined me for a flower pot. She harassed my son over a skateboard. Karen's jaw tightened. She clutched her clipboard like a shield. None of this changes the fact that your brother broke HOA rules. Michael's gaze didn't waver. Show rules don't override city law. And city law doesn't allow fabricated reports. You've crossed the line, Karen, and there will be consequences. The color drained from her face. She turned sharply, heels striking the pavement, retreating back to her fortress of beige stucco without another word. The street exhaled. Neighbors exchanged glances, whispers, even smiles. For once, Karen had been publicly challenged, and not just by me. The easy target she'd bullied for years, but by someone she couldn't intimidate. That night, as the cicadas sang and porch lights flicked on, I sat on my back deck with Michael. He sipped a beer, eyes thoughtful. You think she'll back down? I asked. He shook his head. No, people like Karen don't retreat. They escalate. But she just made her biggest mistake. She exposed her tactics in front of everyone. Now, every move she makes will look like harassment, not leadership. I looked out at the quiet rows of houses, their windows glowing against the night. Feels like war. Michael clinked his bottle against mine. Then we fight smart. And we fight together. For the first time in years, I believed her reign of fear might actually end. But Karen wasn't finished. Not by a long shot. The following week, retaliation arrived. Not with chains or cones, but with paper. Karen's deadliest weapon. A thick envelope landed in my mailbox, stamped with the HOA seal. Inside, 5 separate violation notices. One for unauthorized signage, because I had taped a garage sale Saturday poster to the lamppost 2 weeks ago. One for clutter visible from public view, citing my recycling bins. One for landscaping not up to standard, because a patch of my lawn had browned in the August heat. One for excessive noise disturbance, filed on the exact evening my brother and I had sat on the back deck talking, and one, the most absurd of all. Failure to maintain architectural uniformity, claiming my shutters appeared faded. The total? $1,200 in fines. The ink wasn't even dry before Karen's Facebook post went up. A photo of my house with a red circle around the recycling bins captioned, "Some people never learn. Standards keep our community safe and valuable." Neighbors saw it, liked it, commented in hushed tones. But behind the scenes, more private messages trickled into my inbox. "This is ridiculous. She's targeting you. We're scared she'll come after us if we speak up." That was her strategy, make the public record her weapon, keep resistance in the shadows. Michael was furious when he saw the stack of violations spread across my kitchen table. His jaw tightened, the way it did before a council vote turned ugly. "She's trying to bury you in paper until you fold." I rubbed my temples. Feels like death by 1,000 cuts. But Michael's eyes sharpened. Or rope to hang herself with. He picked up the violation about the shutters, flipped it over, and jotted notes in the margin. HOAs can't invent standards on the fly. They need documented bylaws. Approved, recorded, and consistent. He tapped the paper. She's freelancing, and freelancing in governance is illegal. By Friday, Michael had arranged a quiet sit-down with the city's code enforcement officer. Not in some sterile office, but at a corner booth in Sullivan's Diner, where the scent of bacon and coffee masked the gravity of our conversation. The officer, a grizzled man with salt and pepper hair, leafed through the violation stack. He raised an eyebrow at the noise complaint. "Filed at 9:42 p.m.? City quiet hours don't begin until 11. He slid it back. "This won't stick." One by one, he dismantled the violations. "Bins? Temporary placement doesn't qualify as clutter. Lawn? Not in violation unless it covers more than 30%. Shutters? That's aesthetic preference, not enforceable." Finally, he closed the folder and looked at Michael. "You're right. This is targeted harassment dressed up as code enforcement. But if you want it stopped, it's not enough to dismiss the fines. You'll need to show a pattern." Michael nodded. "That's exactly what I intend to do. Word spread faster than fertilizer on a fresh lawn." By the next HOA board meeting, the clubhouse was packed. Neighbors filled every folding chair, the air sticky with anticipation. Karen stood at the podium, clipboard in hand, a stack of violation slips beside her like a deck of cards. She launched into her usual speech: property values, community pride, the slippery slope of neglect. But her voice wavered when Michael rose from his seat in the back and walked to the front. Not as the mayor, but as a homeowner's family member. He placed the violation stack on the table between them. "These notices don't hold up to city code. Every one of them is an overreach. Worse, they create liability for the HOA. If this pattern continues, the board could face legal consequences." Karen's face stiffened. "You have no authority here. This is HOA business." Michael leaned in, lowering his voice just enough to let the tension thicken. "You filed false reports with city channels. That makes it city business." "And my business." Gasps rippled through the room. A murmur spread like wildfire. Karen clutched her clipboard tighter, but the room no longer felt like hers. For the first time, neighbors whispered openly instead of silently obeying. She straightened, her voice brittle but defiant. "This is far from over." Michael met her eyes. "No, Karen. For you, it's just beginning." The meeting ended in chaos. Neighbors debating in clumps, papers rustling, chairs scraping across linoleum. I walked out into the humid night air, heart pounding, realizing something had shifted. Karen wasn't invincible anymore. Her armor had cracked, but cracks don't make tyrants weaker. They make them dangerous, and deep down, I knew she wasn't done with me. Not yet. Karen didn't wait long to strike back. By Monday morning, I woke to the sound of pounding on my front door. Not a polite knock, an angry, insistent rhythm that rattled the glass. I opened it to find 2 uniformed officers standing on my porch. Their cruisers idled at the curb, red and blue lights flickering across the beige walls of Meadowbrook Estates. Behind them, Karen stood with her arms folded. Clipboard clutched like a weapon, her smirk sharp enough to cut glass. "Mr. Reed," one officer said, his tone clipped but cautious. We've received a complaint about unlicensed commercial activity at this address. We need to ask you some questions. I felt the blood drain from my face. She'd done it again, only this time she hadn't filed a violation. She'd called the police. Karen's voice cut in, loud enough for the neighbors peeking through blinds. He's been running a resale business out of his garage, violating HOA rules and city ordinances. This entire neighborhood has suffered because of him. The audacity almost knocked me back. My business was a single Saturday morning sale. She was spinning it into organized crime. Michael arrived within minutes. He didn't storm in. He walked up the driveway steady and calm, like he had every right to be there, which, as mayor, he did. The officers straightened when they saw him. Karen's smirk faltered, if only for a second. "Officers," Michael said evenly. "I'm Mayor Reed. This is my brother's residence. I can assure you he's not running a business. He hosted a one-time garage sale, perfectly legal under city ordinance." The officers exchanged looks. Karen sputtered, "That's not true." "I have proof, photos, documentation." Michael raised a hand. "We've already reviewed those. Altered photographs, exaggerated captions, and fabricated claims. If you continue making false police reports, Karen, you'll be the one facing charges." The silence that followed was thick, broken only by the soft hum of the cruiser engines. One officer finally turned to Karen. "Ma'am, unless you have actual evidence of a crime, we can't pursue this further. Filing false reports wastes resources." Karen's face flushed crimson. She opened her mouth, closed it, then spun on her heel and stormed off, heels clicking like gunfire on the pavement. The officers left. The cruisers rolled away. The neighborhood exhaled, but Karen's fury lingered, a storm cloud promising thunder. That night, Michael and I sat in my living room. The violation papers still littered the coffee table. "She won't stop," I said quietly. "She'll just find another angle," Michael nodded. "Then we stop playing defense. If she wants to escalate, we escalate smarter." He pulled out his laptop and opened a file. "The city has records. Complaints she's filed, fines she's issued, how HOA funds have been allocated. You know what I've already seen? Patterns. Missing money from maintenance budgets. Cancelled projects with no explanation. And her sister's consulting firm collecting thousands in fees." The pieces clicked into place like a lock turning. Sarah, my late wife, had suspected the same thing years ago. She'd dug into the HOA's finances before her illness stole her strength. At the time, I thought she was just distracting herself from the pain. But now it looked like she'd been right all along. "This isn't about me," I whispered. "It's bigger. She's been bleeding this community dry." Michael's eyes were hard as stone. "And she's been hiding behind paperwork and intimidation. But that shield's gone now. She overplayed her hand when she dragged the city and police into it. For the first time in years, I saw the endgame clearly. This wasn't just about garage sales or grass height. This was about power, money, control, and Karen had just declared war on the wrong family. 2 weeks later, the truth came crashing down. Michael had spent sleepless nights tracing the HOA's financials, combing through budgets and vendor contracts that should have gone to local companies, but instead funneled into Karen's sister's shell firm. Inflated landscaping costs, emergency repairs that were never completed. Tens of thousands siphoned away. We packaged the findings into a thick binder. Evidence so heavy it felt like a weapon, and we carried it into the monthly HOA meeting. The clubhouse buzzed with tension. Folding chairs scraped against the floor, neighbors whispering, some angry, some fearful, all waiting. Karen stood at the front, clipboard ready, flanked by her loyal board members. She wore confidence like armor, but her eyes darted too much, her smile too tight. Michael didn't waste time. He stepped forward, placed the binder on the podium, and flipped it open. "This is not about lawn height. It's not about garage sales. It's about corruption." The room hushed instantly. He read line after line, invoice after invoice. Photos of neglected repairs. Copies of contracts with Karen's sister's firm. Bank statements showing HOA dues drained for consulting that never happened. Every page was a nail hammered into the coffin of her authority. Neighbors leaned in, their whispers turning to gasps. One woman stood up, voice shaking with anger. "My roof has leaked for 3 years while she told us there wasn't enough money in the budget." Another man shouted, "Where did our dues go, Karen?" Karen's mask cracked. Her voice trembled as she snapped back. "This is a smear campaign." "Lies, all of it." "You can't prove—" Michael cut her off. His voice was calm, but sharp enough to slice through the noise. "It's already been submitted to the city. The district attorney's office will decide what's next. But the board can decide tonight whether Karen remains president." A vote was called. Hands shot into the air, one after another, like a wave crashing over her. Nearly unanimous, Karen stood frozen, clipboard dangling from her fingers, her empire crumbling in a single evening. When the last hand went up, she dropped the clipboard, the sound echoing like a gavel strike, and stormed out of the clubhouse. The room erupted, some cheering, some still reeling. Neighbors hugged. Relief hung thick in the air. For the first time in years, Meadowbrook Estates felt lighter, like a chain had been broken. Later, as we walked home under the glow of the streetlights, Michael placed a hand on my shoulder. "Sarah was right," he said quietly. "She saw it before any of us did." I looked back at the rows of homes, at the families finally free from Karen's reign. "She'd be proud," I whispered. For me, it wasn't just victory. It was closure. The fight Sarah had started, we had finished, and Karen, she faded into the shadows, her power gone, her name whispered only as a cautionary tale. In Meadowbrook Estates, life moved forward. But no one would forget the summer the HOA tyrant finally fell.